Moving to Australia can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. The Move to Australia directory from Smart Steps to Australia brings together all the essential services you need into one convenient place, making it easier to find the right professionals to turn your dream into reality. Whether you're looking for a trusted migration agent, competitive shipping quotes, guidance on buying your first home, or help relocating your beloved pet, our directory has it all. We've curated the best services to support your new life in Australia. Find everything you need to make your move stress-free, with experts just a click away. Visit directory.smartstepstoaustralia.com and simplify your relocation journey today.
Welcome to the New Life in Australia podcast, hosted by me, Karen Bleakley, founder of smartstepstoaustralia.com. Moving to Australia with my family was a life-changing experience, but it wasn't without its challenges. That's why I'm passionate about making the relocation and resettlement process easier for you so you can enjoy this exciting adventure. Join me and my special guests as we share professional secrets and tips, learn from people who've made the move, and discover businesses that can help you realise your dreams. Now is the best time to create the life you've always wanted. This podcast is here to show you what's possible and to inspire you every step of the way. Let's go.
Let's take a moment to acknowledge the Gubbi Gubbi people, the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which I live, work and play. I thank them for the privilege of being able to live in such an incredible part of the world, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Hey there, welcome to this week's episode of the New Life in Australia podcast. I'm your podcast host, Karen Bleakley. This week I am talking about one of the hot topics that always comes up when I talk to people about moving to Australia, and that is spiders, snakes and sharks. Does everything in Australia really want to kill you? Now, I'm here to bust some myths. Are spiders, snakes and sharks really waiting around every corner in Australia, just waiting to pounce on you, waiting to finish you off? I'm really looking forward to just going through some of these topics and talking about the amazing wildlife that we have here in Australia. So I think you're going to find that from the kangaroos, koalas, whales, dugongs, and all of Australia's incredible wildlife, you're going to find that it's far more fascinating and stunning rather than frightening. So we'll talk about how rare it actually is to encounter something dangerous here in Australia and reveal the real creatures that you should be wary of that aren't so nice about living in Australia. And there are a couple of those, but they aren't as scary as you expect. So when we decided we were making the move to Australia, everybody said to us, oh my goodness, we couldn't move to Australia. There's too many spiders there. There's sharks there. There's snakes everywhere. Oh my goodness, how awful will it be? It will be too scary. You'll be finding snakes curled up in your toilet. You'll be finding spiders in your shoes. They'll be all over the house. It's going to be a horrible place to live. It was a really common thing that we heard, and it's really sort of one of those big stereotypes that is just not true. Yes, we do have dangerous wildlife here in Australia. There's dangerous wildlife in most countries, but people don't seem to think about it in other countries. It just seems to be that Australia gets all of the flack for being the most dangerous country in the world. But we have some of the most stunning wildlife here that you will ever see. And while there are dangerous creatures here, they are not out to get you. They are more scared of you than you are of them, trust me. So it's all about keeping things in perspective because, yes, there are dangers that you can be aware of, but it's your perception of things. It's where you're focusing your energy and your attention, and you really just need to be aware, but you don't need to be scared of Australia's wildlife because most of it on the whole is absolutely incredible. I know that there are a lot of funny memes out there, as I say, of snakes in your swimming pool or crocodiles in your swimming pool or spiders kind of on your windscreen about to jump on your face while you're driving, and those things are really usually quite exaggerated and quite silly and quite rare occasions that you would ever really come face to face with that kind of wildlife. I've been living in Australia for 11 years. Let me tell you, I've seen maybe 4 snakes, 5 snakes maybe through that whole time. And that's been when I've been out and about in the bush, somewhere more in the wild, or walking around a leafy kind of area around a lake. I haven't seen any dangerous snakes. They've all been non-dangerous, non-venomous snakes that I've seen. And they slither out of the way, or you just don't go near them. You just take precautions, you are just aware because you're in their environment when you're out in the bush. You're in their environment, so you just take care. You don't go through the long grass, you stick to the pathways, and you just keep your eyes open and you won't actually have any trouble. When it comes to spiders, I really did expect that we would get some spiders in our house in Australia. And initially we did used to get our house sprayed, which is something that you can do when you move here. You can get someone to come round and spray all of the entry and exit points of your property with a chemical that kills spiders, kills cockroaches, and you don't have to worry about them inside or on the outside of your property. When we first moved here, it's something that we did do because we were a little bit cautious and a little bit aware that you can get venomous spiders in Australia. Spiders can be really quite large, like giant huntsman spiders. They aren't nice. I don't love spiders at all. I'm not a spider fan, but they really aren't that common. I guess it depends on the kind of house you live and the area that you live in as well. We've lived in a couple of houses here in Australia, and we really have found that it's quite uncommon to get big spiders in the house. We've had maybe, I would say in this house, we've been in this house for about 10 years now. We've probably had, I would say, 3 to 4 really big huntsman spiders in the house. And they are a bit scary because they are big and they do run really fast. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a big fan of getting them in my house. But in the UK, we used to get giant, big, scary, hairy black spiders crawling up our floorboards in our house all the time. Yeah, they weren't quite as big as the huntsmans that we get here, but they were really a common feature of our house in Hampshire. We used to get them all the time and it used to really freak me out. Whereas now it's definitely a lot less common. And as I say, we haven't had the house sprayed for maybe, I don't know, 8 years or something, like a really long time. It's been a long time since we had it sprayed. So the spray isn't working anymore because the chemicals don't last for that long. But if you are really terrified of the idea of having spiders in your house, just get an annual pest spray, and it's not very expensive. You can get it like for something like $100 or something on Groupon. Get them sprayed, and then you don't have to think about spiders or cockroaches or anything coming into your house. Now, we do sometimes get cockroaches. They are a more common occurrence that we get, and they are quite big. And the scariest thing with those is they can fly. And when you don't realise that, that is the scariest thing, because I remember not long after we moved into our house going to try and catch one with a glass, and it flew straight into my face. So yeah, they can fly at you. So being prepared for that. They do run really fast as well. I don't like cockroaches either. They're horrible. But again, we don't get that many. We keep bug spray in the house for if we need it. And if we do go through a phase of getting quite a few of them in the house, then we could get the house sprayed again. But it's not that big a deal. So we don't actually bother getting it done. In terms of danger from these creatures, different parts of Australia obviously have different dangerous wildlife to be aware of. So I think it's important to just learn about the area that you're going to and what things you need to be aware of. So whether you're moving somewhere that might have funnel web spiders, or you're moving somewhere that has stinger season in the ocean where you've got tiny stingers that can really give you a very nasty sting and be very deadly, or whether you're going to areas that you know where there's going to be sharks. Let's be honest, ocean has sharks in it and it's their home. You're going into their home. So it's just about learning the rules, about staying as safe as you can, things like not going out to surf at dawn and dusk, things like that. But just taking precautions and being aware of what dangerous wildlife you need to be aware of in the area that you're moving to, and how to manage staying safe around that wildlife. When we first moved here, I used to tap out my shoes before I put my foot in my shoe, and I'd shake my towel before I got out of the shower and got into the wrapped up in a towel, just to make sure that there were no spiders or anything in there. But when you've been here for a little while, you actually realise that it's not that common, and spiders aren't just out to hide in your shoe. Because to be honest, if you put your foot in a shoe, you would completely squish a spider. So it doesn't want to be there, hiding from you, waiting for you, laying in wait. It's just not something that they're out to get you, like I think a lot of the memes kind of make out. They're just kind of curled up there laying in wait for you, but it's really not true. Now I don't even think about it. I don't think about those things. If I was picking up a table or a chair outside, I'd look under it before I put my fingers underneath it to lift it, just to make sure that there was nothing there. I think, again, it's just about getting into cautious habits for your new lifestyle, but it's not something that you need to freak out about. I know when we first moved here, I was a bit worried about sitting on our outdoor furniture in general, because I was worried that it was outside and there would be spiders everywhere. But there really isn't. I don't think I've ever seen a spider hanging around our outdoor furniture. So it's something just to be mildly aware of, but not let it rule your life. When it comes to snakes, they are not something that I very commonly see very often in my suburb. I know that there are snakes around. We live by some water, by some ponds and a lake, and you do get snakes here and there around there. And I have heard that there have sometimes been some dangerous snakes in the area as well. So again, it's just about being aware, being cautiously aware, knowing that there could be a snake in the area and just taking precautions for that. So not walking through long grass, not walking through the trees, sticking to the pathways, and just making sure that your kids are aware as well that there is wildlife here that you don't want to touch and that you don't want to get close to. So I tell this story time and time again. You might have heard me tell it before, but I've lived in Australia for 11 years and I've never heard of a single person that I've met or anyone that they know being bitten by a snake. It's just not that common. It's not something that happens often. And even with the news stories that you hear about a snake bite, generally the person will go straight to the hospital and they'll get an anti-venom serum and they'll be absolutely fine. So actually to die from a snake bite here is really, really rare. But ironically, the only person that I do know in the world that has been bitten by a venomous snake is my husband. And that was in Hampshire in the UK on Hayling Island when he was a kid. He picked up a snake thinking it was a slow worm. It was an adder and it bit him and he was really sick and he nearly died from the snake bite. So when people talk about how dangerous the wildlife is in Australia, I like to remind them that actually no country's free from dangerous wildlife, and there is dangerous wildlife in the UK. You just choose not to think about it and not to focus on it. But that doesn't make it any less real. The reason that Australia's wildlife gets this reputation is because people focus on it all the time. So people believe it and they really focus on it more, and then it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy that there's dangerous wildlife all around you. But there's dangerous wildlife everywhere in the world. You can't spend your life hiding from wildlife. That would just be totally crazy. The wildlife here in Australia does not stop you from living your life here, and it does not get in the way of anything. So let's be honest, snakes and spiders really take up minimal awareness when you're in Australia. They're not something you're thinking about. You're too busy enjoying the beaches, the sunshine, living your lives, going to work, doing everyday things. You're not focused on snakes and spiders being all around you because, yes, they probably are snakes and spiders all around you, but you're not likely to see them most of the time. On the flip side, Australia has the most incredible wildlife that I've ever seen. There's kangaroos, koalas, kookaburras, beautiful birds, parrots, whales, dolphins, dugongs, sea turtles, dolphins, so much more. And it is absolutely stunning. And I get really excited all the time. Only this morning I was on a dog walk and up ahead of me, I thought, who's that on the path? And then I realised it was a kangaroo who was just hopping across the path in front of me. It is just amazing to be able to see this wildlife here. And obviously, the further outside the city you go with the more open spaces, the more likely you are to see some wildlife in the wild as well. I love going whale watching every year. It's one of my favourite things to do. I love snorkelling. I've set my sights on trying to see a dugong this year. I still really want to see one. I've been living in Moreton Bay for all this time and I still haven't seen one. And it's one of the best habitats in the world to see dugongs. So I'd really love to see one. But I have seen sea turtles here and lots of different things. And it is just a really, really beautiful place to live with some amazing wildlife. And I never get bored of seeing a kookaburra kind of flying down and landing on our pool fence, or spotting a koala up in the trees at school. Even if you live in more of a built-up area where you don't have wildlife all around you, we've got some amazing wildlife sanctuaries and zoos around. where I am, we've got Australia Zoo is a brilliant day out, and Lone Pine Koala Sanctuary is fantastic. And we have lots of different smaller sanctuaries as well. So definitely check them out when you move to Australia, because yes, people talk about the dangerous wildlife here in Australia. I don't think people pay enough attention to how amazing the actual wildlife really is. Now let's turn the conversation around to a couple of bits of the wildlife here that aren't so nice and you do need to be a bit more aware of. Mosquitoes. They are horrible little buzzy creatures, and at certain times of the year where I am, we definitely get a lot of them. And my husband and my daughter especially get really bitten really badly, and it's really intense. They really swell up and get really sore and really get allergic reactions to the bites. Mosquitoes can carry diseases. They're not something that you want. So mosquito repellents, there's lots of different options for you, whether you choose to use chemical or non-chemical kind of repellents or wristbands or whatever it is that you use. Mosquitoes are horrible, so do what you can to avoid them. There's also lots of plants that you can plant in your garden to try to ward them off. And there's sprays that you can do, of chemical sprays in your garden to try to stop them from being around. We tend to just avoid being outside at night times. If you're going to be outside at night times, wear long sleeves, long trousers. Just try and do what you can to avoid them. They are a real pain. They're not something a lot of people talk about when it comes to dangerous wildlife, but in my opinion, they are the worst. And the other thing is, we live in Queensland, we live in North Brisbane. We get cane toads, which are something that was introduced many years ago. They've kind of taken over. They're a true pest here in Australia. They are all over the place. There are so many of them. You get really giant, big, horrible, scaly cane toads, and you get tiny little cane toads, and they're just all over the place, and they are deadly. So your pets can't try to lick them or bite them or anything like that, because they do kill anything that tries to eat them. They're really horrible, and if your pet licked one, then they can get awful hallucinations and be quite sick. So they're a really nasty piece of wildlife, and they're something that you do have to live with when you live in Queensland. They are all over the place. So if we go for a dog walk late at night, I always have a torch, because we always find cane toads in our path, and they are really horrible, and I don't like them. Now, there's lots of different ways that people choose to get rid of cane toads in terms of killing them humanely and horrible things. It's not nice, and they are a real pest, and they are spreading through Australia, and in time they will just continue to spread because they've got no natural predators. So again, they are one of those bits of wildlife here that are not cute and cuddly like a koala or lovely like a kookaburra. They're horrible. So they're just something that you need to be aware of. And I know that my daughter freaks out. She really hates cane toads. It's not fun. She doesn't like going on late night dog walks, because not only does she get bitten by mosquitoes, but also there's cane toads around as well. And you do get some of the spiders out at night doing their web across the walkways. So for her, walking out at night is a definite no-no. Really, realistically, you don't need to be scared of the wildlife here. I can't remember the last time that I saw a spider here. I honestly can't even remember. Would be weeks ago, maybe months ago. And the last snake I saw, again, probably a couple of years ago. I can't even remember. We get cute things like geckos. They're cute. They come around and they do eat the spiders. There's the wildlife here is more incredible than it is dangerous. You just need to be aware of it, and just be aware of your new lifestyle that you're moving into, and especially when you're moving with little kids, just reminding them not to pick up every piece of wildlife. I know that when we made the move, we had twins who were aged 4, and they were obsessed with picking up bugs. They had bug catchers and nets and things like that back in the UK. And when we moved to Australia, we just taught them that it's not something that you do here. You need to be more aware of the wildlife and just sort of stick to the paths and don't go into the long grass and don't go into the bushes and things like that. So our kids have just grown up with it, and it's just part of their natural way of life. They just understand that they live in this country, and these are some of the things they need to be aware of. We've never found a snake in our house. Never found a snake curled up in our toilet. We've never found a giant spider hidden under our toilet seat or any of that stuff. So don't freak out. You really don't need to spend your time worrying about being busy. When you get here, just be more aware of, if you're in Queensland, of cane toads. Definitely wherever you are in Australia, be aware of mosquitoes. They are things that actually could really genuinely harm you or harm your pets with the cane toads. So just be aware of them. If we travel to a different area in Australia, we spend a little bit of time just doing some research as to whether we need to be cautious and aware of any wildlife in that area. For instance, when we went up to Early Beach a couple of years ago, we did some research, found out it was stinger season, so you need to wear stinger suits when you're in the water up there. So that was just something that we factored into the trip, and we were aware of wearing those for a certain portion of the trip until we got further down the coast to where the stingers are no longer found in the waters. So again, just being aware, being cautious, just knowing there's so much power in knowledge. And to me, that is the most important thing. There isn't power in silly memes and people trying to freak you out by telling you that you're going to be bitten by a spider next week while you're doing your gardening or taking the bin out. It's very unlikely to happen. So I'd love to hear from you. Drop me a DM or send me an email or reply to a comment if this is shared on social media to let me know whether you've had any dangerous wildlife encounters or whether, more likely, you've had no dangerous wildlife encounters since living in Australia like myself. I hope this has laid some of your fears to rest if this is something that you have been freaking out about making the move to Australia because of. I hope it just reassured you that it's not something that you need to focus on or be terrified of because it is quite unrealistic. We have dangerous wildlife. There's dangerous wildlife everywhere around you. If you're terrified of the wildlife here, then were you also terrified of the wildlife back in your home country? You probably weren't. You probably didn't even think about it. So try to kind of focus on it with that perspective. So I hope you enjoyed this week's episode and it was helpful for you. If so, please do leave a positive review. It really does help more people find the podcast. And in the meantime, let's get building your new life in Australia, one episode at a time.